Welcome to another episode of the Rags to Riches series and the last episode of this series. And look who's ready to go back to the jungle. So, let's go ahead and buy ourselves a new vet. We can do right here. Going like this and buy a vet clinic. Though she has been notoriously bad at using her phone, so let's see if this actually works. So I wasn't actually able to find a way to legitimately purchase a vet lot in the vacation world in the jungle. There might be a way, I might find one at the end of this, but for right now, I just decided to go ahead and design and make the build regardless of whether or not I can actually move her in there. It doesn't really matter because the series isn't going to continue, so it's there. I'm building it. Regardless of if it wants me to or not. So, I was trying to be inspired by the houses that you can see in the villages around it. There's one that I really like that has like the two big buildings on the end and then like two smaller buildings. They're all connected and there's like a courtyard and everything. And I really like the idea of having the courtyard because she does have the dog and the cat. And I want them to be able to go outside, but still be safe, and I can keep them in the area but not have to pay too much attention to them. So that's why I decided to go with the courtyard with the fence and everything and the two buildings. So the one half is going to turn into being the vet, and then she's going to live on the other side. And if you're thinking, man, that's not a whole lot of room for everything, you are correct. This was a huge challenge for me. I'm not used to doing small builds. I've never really done them. And it's a small build. Like, the vet side isn't all that bad. Everything is kind of crammed. Like, there's not a whole lot of room for, like, decorations and stuff. It's mostly just the vet's equipment that you need, and that's some posters, and that's what you get in each room. But so here I am using all of the new windows and doors that I really like. Still not sure with these big windows with like the shutters. I'll move them up and down a bunch, and I'm still not even convinced. I don't know if they should be on the ground level or up a level. I think if the wall was in the medium height, they'd make more sense and they'd work better, but with this size wall, I'm not sure what looks best. So I'm not even sure which I decide to go with. I think it's with it on the ground. We'll see. But here I'm trying to decide how I want this area, this whole front area is going to be like the seating and waiting. And I thought it would make sense for them to come in and see the check-in stand right at the front. But I couldn't, it took up too much space, one space back. But it was way too close one space forward, and it also kind of cut up what little space we had. So I will end up changing that so that the check stand's kind of in the middle of the room, I think. I'm not sure. I go through a lot of changes throughout this build because it's a very small space, and trying to get everything to work the way I wanted wasn't going well. So we have the big main area, that's where they sit. We have this hallway that leads into it, and there's those big old stone cement window things that lead out to the courtyard. And then that hallway will lead into the room where you can do the surgery and where you would do the checks, like the diagnosis of the pet, I guess, that table that we've been using. There's a math room, which finally occurred to me that we would need. But I did have it so that the surgery room was on the right, but I thought it made more sense that you would walk into the room where you put the pet up on the table and check them, and then walk into the surgery room, so that's why I ended up switching those around. But as you can see, there's pretty much just space in those rooms for those equipment. There's not a whole lot of space for like counters with cool gadgets and decorations on them, which I would have liked. And then here we're working on the bathroom that I don't think the patients' owners ever use. I don't think I've ever seen people who were waiting at the vet do anything besides talk to random objects and chill there and their dogs bark because the food bowl isn't full. Like, that's the only thing I've ever noticed them doing. Luckily, they do sit down, so there's that, I guess. These doors are so big. Like, I like the look and I want to use it because this is a build in the jungle, so it made sense to use the items that came with the pack, but man, they take up a lot of space. I'm also going to be using, obviously, the pet pack. I do try to use only 2 packs worth of stuff. I probably will upload it to the gallery, even though it seems like nobody would actually be able to use it, unless, say, they've redecorated one of the other towns to fit the theme, which I've been considering doing. I think the desert area would be kind of cool to use all this pack stuff on, but I haven't gotten around to that. But yeah, it was really hard to stick to those 2 packs because I have a lot of cool stuff that would have really worked well, but I just couldn't bring myself to use it because I feel bad for people who want to download builds or something in the gallery, but it has 10 different DLCs of various types in it, and it's like, if you're missing any of that, you download it, it looks really weird. So I try to keep things limited to very few packs if I'm going to be putting them on the gallery. Whereas if it's just for myself, I go crazy. But once I do try to do something for myself, there's this I'm in such a habit of being super conscious of what packs I'm using that I have a hard time just using anything and everything. I feel almost bad for using DLC stuff, so I try to do mostly base game. I'm trying to get out of the habit in my own builds, but it's really hard to break once you're in it. So I was trying to find a way to match like the couches and the furniture and stuff that's going to be in this waiting area, and I found that nice like mint green color, but I kind of wanted it to be colorful, and that one of the couches has an orange pillow, and I was like, yes, I have to bring in a bunch of orange now because I am really bad at being colorful. Like, if you'd ever seen my wardrobe, it's like all black. So I even struggle to do it in my game where I can have all kinds of colors. It's just like, how about we go black and blue and some gray? Yeah, there we go. So it was hard, but I think that this build looks really cool after all the colors, at least the vet side. I think the house side ends up being closer to the color scheme that I tend to use, or I generally use, just because it was based on the character that I was playing, and I think that's the stuff she'd like. So, but I'm pretty proud of being able to use something like orange, which I've never really done. And then I'm adding these I'm trying to think of things to add to this room so that it has the good, like, the environment bonus that they were always complaining about in ours. Like, I just wanted to put every kind of decoration and cool thing in there so they liked being in this waiting room, because I don't know what to do to make them happy. Like I said in the previous episode, I spent hours trying to get from a 4-star to a 5-star, and it just was not freaking happening no matter what I did. So trying to make it so that if anyone does decide to use this, they have a good chance it looks nice and that the people think it looks nice. I don't know why they don't have it so that you can't hang curtains over door frames. I feel like they really should. So you will see me going on and off throughout all of it using the cheat that allows me to place stuff anywhere, which is BB, move objects, space on or off. And I try not to use it very often, mostly because it can affect how Sims interact with stuff. So I turn it on just for the things I want to place, and then I'll turn it back off, whereas there are some people who do entire builds with it on, but I'm always worried that I'm going to put something in a way that a Sim won't be able to use it, which is just not something I want. So I try to be careful when I use it. I only use it for decorations and occasionally things that Sims use. Like, I think... No, I didn't actually use it on the couch, but just on occasion, like with door frames, I'll use it where I know they interact with it, but they say they can't go through something. It's like, you can walk through an arch into this area even though there's an object here, because you can generally walk in this spot. So I'll use it in those cases, but for the most part, I try to just stick with, like, plants in the garden, or making it so pots will sit at a certain angle that I really like, which I'll be doing eventually. This build took me like 2 hours, I think, And this is going to end up being a pretty long episode because the editor I use only allows me to make it so fast. I can't go any faster, and so I'm just kind of stuck with what it gives me, which is whatever speed this is at. It's not an exact adjustment. It's kind of like grab the end and drag it towards the front, opposed to choosing an actual percent. And as you can see, I had to take a break there, so that's why there was that weird jump. I needed to just step away from Sims for a bit because I had been recording the build for like an hour, maybe 45 minutes, but I'd also already spent like 2 or 3 hours trying to get the other episode caught up so that we were at the 5-star, and so I was like, I think I need a break. I'm gonna go play some Monster World Hunter. That's how it is. I always want to mix up the order of those words. But yeah, I've been playing that quite a bit, so I took a break and did that. Here I'm about to spend about a decade looking at different types of fences, which I eventually later realized I don't think we have any kind of normal looking fences that go around a house. Like a picket fence? Nowhere to be seen. Like, I was trying to do just a normal build after this. And like all of these fences most of them are meant to be railings, and you can tell, but there's like no normal fences for fenced yards for like dogs. I don't understand. But I didn't really like that fence because it didn't match in the color, but I couldn't find anything that worked better. There was one that was really close to working well, but it didn't have the colors that I wanted, and so I was real sad. Then we got a new roof color. I forgot to remove that chimney. I did plan on having the big old stove that came with the pack in the house, but that was before I realized how little space I had given myself to work with inside the apartment, and that's where I'm going to decide here. Because I have the kind of the mirrored hallway on that side, and mostly because I thought it would be weird that you could walk down the corridor in the vet and look directly into her house. And so I wanted to have this hallway where it would be where she'd keep like her shoes and all of that kind of stuff, but it would also work as a barrier between that really open wall and the rest of the house. But I'm just not going to have the space to do that, and so I'm actually going to end up removing that hallway. I really wanted those little scan things that we're looking at in with the scan, but its barrier is like really tall, where you can't place stuff around it, and so I had to have it either way close to the ceiling, which wouldn't be useful, or move it into the room where she does like the tests and stuff. So that's where I decided to move it to. And now I think I'm actually going to spend quite a bit of time on this bathroom, which is not something I tend to do. I usually just plop down all the stuff, throw up a blue wall, and call it a bathroom, but I really liked how the backs of these showers kind of match the tile of this wall, and so I wanted to find one, because I thought there was a wall tile that would line up with the top of the shower, and so it would just look like the shower was nothing but glass walls. And that's what I was looking for, but the one that's tall enough is too tall. It's a little taller, and then like the middle height is what I have on the other walls, and so here is where you can see what like height that goes to. And so it's either the tiles go up just for the shower or we have it way too tall. I do come up with a solution that I really liked, but I'm gonna have to actually rearrange this entire bathroom. Like all of this stuff that I decide kind of stays here, but I am going to have to move them around. But the solution I did find made it so that it looked like it was just glass, and I was so happy. And it's going to be these windows are always the wrong size for what I want, but I'm going to use these cement things again, so that it looks like that wall. As you can see, it looks like the wall just leads into the shower, which looks really nice, except then you have a big open thing into the bathroom. Granted, it is across the ceiling, so it's pretty high up, and I don't think anyone would be creepering into it, but I do end up covering it from the outside using stiff. We'll get there though. Here we go. I'm going to be trying to use these new wall plants that we got with this pack to cover up with like vine and stuff, and I think it looks really cool. I kind of wish I could have something similar. I did consider going up a wall, but it was just going to be too tall to work with, and it was going to make those windows at kind of a weird height. I went back to where I was at. I did really want to use the clumped hanging vines. Here's where you can see I use the cheat to put those pots in that corner because it looks really nice that way. But I end up using this wall vines instead, even though I would have much rather the kind of loose hanging vines, but I thought that it would look too repetitive, whereas it would make sense for this just to be a solid wall of vines. That's just how it is. And then unfortunately, if I had been using more packs than just the two, I would have had a perfect way of leading up from the ground to those vines, but like I said, I was trying to keep it to the packs that I only needed, and so I needed to put some kind of plants underneath it so the vines kind of were covering the fact that they have this weird gap between the ground and the vines. Again, windows, never the height I want, or width. Here is where I have the dilemma of, do I put it too close to the ceiling or do I put it close to the ground? They both look wrong once I've done it, you know? Because it kind of looks like a door, and that's not really what I'm going for, and I don't know. I think that with the banister on it, it looks kind of weird closer to the ceiling because it would put the banister at a weird height, whereas it kind of makes sense as being on the ground to keep things from falling out. So that banister you can see kind of there in the corner. And then I remembered that this is indeed gonna have her pets in it, and so I also needed to have like a litter box and that kind of thing. Here I'm going to be trying to use a full-size bed, but unfortunate for her, it's not going to fit, and we will eventually get rid of that because this is not going to stay being the bedroom very long. I think I come to the conclusion there's not enough room for the kitchen and like a living area in this layout, and in reality that hallway is a ton of wasted space because I wouldn't be able to put anything there. Like maybe a shoe rack and a bookcase, but what good is that? You know? And so I am going to, here we are. Goodbye, beautiful hallway. I liked you, but you just weren't going to work. I did think about having it so that the hallway was just that little corner area, and then you would walk in right here, but in the end that doesn't provide a whole lot more space than what we already had, I guess. So it's just gonna have to go completely and redo this whole floor. Don't worry, those curtains are gonna go. There we go. The curtains that I really wanted to use aren't in the packs because there's like a really nice meshy curtain that I would have preferred to have, but we just went with this default base game curtains that look really nice, and I think the way it looks, like she could pull them back on days where the vet's closed or something, so she could just open them up to the courtyard, which I think would be really cool, and so she can let in a nice breeze. So I imagine it gets kind of toasty in the jungle. I'm kind of surprised they didn't have any kind of bug net. Like, I think it would be really cool if they made one of the beds that, like, in my mind, that's like the princess style, where you have this mesh net that, like, hangs from the ceiling and then, like, drapes over the bed, which I think I had for a little bit when I was a teen, and I loved it. But you would think they would have that for, with bug nets, because they actually do that in certain areas where the bugs are, like, the mosquitoes are such a problem, is you have a bug net around the bed to keep you safe. Because I think my sister, when she went on her honeymoon, she had that problem where, like, her leg or something stuck out of the net and she just got, like, hundreds of bites. So I think that would have been cool if they had included that on one of the beds, though that would have been really specific to the pack, so I can understand why they didn't end up doing it. I really liked the look of this, but it seemed like a square table would make more sense for that layout, just because the whole backside of that table wasn't going to be available. And here is where I'm like, yeah, I can't make that bedroom work with a two-person bed, so single bed is what she gets. Even though I feel pretty bad for it. But it's fine. At least she has a bedroom. Because there almost isn't enough space. I don't understand people who manage to make very tiny builds. I can't do it. So yeah, here I'm trying to decide where to put the living room, because again, I don't really have space for it, you know? I do decide to try to have, like, the TV between these two doors, Though that does mean the couch is just kind of at the end of the counters. Like, it looks a little weird, but it was the best I could come up with because, like, there's also doors on the other side where the bedroom and the bathroom are, so I can't have it along that wall, like, turned 90 degrees. So I don't know. It's the best I can do. I'm relatively happy with what I was able to do with what I had, even if it was, again, such a pain. I spent so much time trying to see if I could think of a better way of rearranging that interior, but it's just how it's gonna be. Then we put one of the closed windows in the bedroom, which worked really nicely. It fit the size just right, and it would make sense that she would want that closed in her bedroom. And unfortunately, from the world map, when you see this house, it displays the back of the house. I don't know why it does that, and so I was trying to pay like extra attention to making sure that the back looked decent, because when you're at the world map, that's all you see. But it seems like in some of the houses, they do make sure to get the picture for the house from the front. But it does not seem to be the case for this one, which is a bit unfortunate. I did think about having, I don't know if I just did or if I'm going to do it later. I did consider having a computer next to that test scanny thingy. I don't know what that one would be called at the moment, but where she can make the treats and stuff. I thought it could be a cool office and have like a desk, but that looked huge when I tried it, just because this build is so small. It looks like a monster. I was like, well, that's not gonna fit. So it went back to just being where she can do the tests, and I don't think she actually ends up getting a computer in the end. She'll just have to go to the museum to access the internet, which makes sense. Like, there's not going to be a whole lot of commodities, is that the term I'm looking for, in a tiny house in a remote village in the jungle. Like, I'm surprised they have what they do have. Like, she does have a TV, so she's looking that way. I don't think there's actually a bookcase, come to think of it, which there usually should be in a build. I guess I don't even think one would fit in like the seating area, which would have made sense for like magazines to keep people interested while they're waiting. So I could have tried to squeeze one in there, but it didn't occur to me. So I guess there's just no bookcase, which means she has to learn everything through practice opposed to actually reading the books. Not that the reading of books was all that useful as a way of learning skills. It's very slow. And for some reason, because technically that chair can't be that close to the fridge, I had to use the cheat to get that table where it is. When I would change the wall colors, it would delete the fridge. Don't know why. That's just how it is. I am going to really struggle here for a little bit because I couldn't really find a wall that I was happy with besides this one. And I did want the color theme to be pink because that's kind of what I randomized this sim enjoying, was pink. But I just couldn't make the pink stuff work with the red walls really well. Like, the table under the TV works perfectly. Like, it has the same kind of red in like the runner that's on it. But I do eventually end up changing the couch and the rug to match it because I just couldn't find the decorations to tie it in the red. So, I don't know what I do choose. Ah, yes. Kind of a base game carpet that I use surprisingly often. But I also thought it made it look like this little living room area looked bigger because the rug itself was bigger. So, in the end, I'm not too upset. I just go overboard with the pink in her room to kind of compensate for it not being in the living room, which is really hard for me because it's not a color I'm much a fan of or that I use very often or see all that often. So it was kind of interesting trying to work with it even in this little area where I have it. So I don't even remember seeing the bathroom be arranged, but it happened at some point. I do like having those suitcases there because I do imagine that she travels a lot between her two vets, so she probably spends you know, some period of time here and then travels back to her main vet and spends some time there and then travels back. And so I like the idea of that she keeps those suitcases out and readily available. She actually probably lives out them because I couldn't put a dresser anywhere in the build. So she doesn't even have anywhere to put her clothes. So she's probably stuck with living out those suitcases, which is not all that fun. And that's towards the end here. I was like, oh man, she has pets. So I needed to fit like toys somewhere in the build and like a food bowl and like a scratching post. They don't end up having a bed anywhere, unfortunately, which I would have really rathered. I like having the 2 beds in the bedroom because it makes the pets like lay down and go to sleep when your sim does, but this didn't work. So here I'm kind of decorating the half the yard. I left half of it empty so that the dog could use it to go to the bathroom and play with the toys and stuff on that side. But using those big old banana looking plants, tree things, palm things. I'm so good at this English. It ended up kind of being a privacy sort of thing. It blocks off and kind of hides that courtyard area so that there's just a tiny bit of privacy. Not a whole lot, but there's a little bit. Oh yeah, I remember, I was kind of surprised at using that rug because it wouldn't have been one I would have ever chosen on my own. But while I was flipping through the colors, that one popped up and it matched the suitcases perfectly because of the black one on the bottom of the stack. So it brought the whole suitcase and everything together. So I'm actually really happy with that rug, even though, again, I would never in a million years use it. Here, you can kind of design your own vet sign thing to have it on the outside, so that's what I'm doing. I'm making a little vet sign, and then I have the one hanging over the door so people don't try to go to, like, her side. As is, the entrance to this lot is on the side over here. We're gonna start train painting it. And so I don't think there would be too much confusion on which door you were supposed to go into to go to the vet, because it's the one that's closest to the walk. And then I tried making it so that the one leading to the vet was really walked on, but the one to her house wasn't, because I imagine for the most part she's going from the vet to her house and very rarely goes straight to her house. So yay, here's our little vet, and I'll show it off here in real time in a second. Alright, here we are in real time. I opened up the vet so we can just kind of see how that's going while we're checking this stuff out real quick. This plant I can't get rid of. It's outside of the lot. All I can do is like tend it and stuff, so I guess we can just let it die. But here is our little vet. I think it looks pretty cool. Because there's no owner to this, they'll just run it. So right here you can see there's a vet. So if we had our pets here, we can bring them here to get taken care of. So even though we can't necessarily run it ourselves, it is a running vet that you can visit if you're here. So here we've got our little rooms. I can't, I was curious if I could interact with them, but again, because I don't own this lot, can't really. Are those 2 windows different colors, or are they just different? Yeah, I think they're just different lighting, causing them to be different colors. I guess I could have tried putting a desk right this direction, but I just didn't think of trying that. But then we have this as her main house right here, and how you have the curtains, and you could easily pull them to the side to let in some air, just get some water. I think I pretty much have everything you need for a running house. Oh no, I do have a bin over here in the corner. Then here we have our little pink bedroom and our nice big old bathroom with both a shower and a bath. And then we have just like the little personal one in here. So yeah, I think she would be quite happy living here, probably half the year, on and off. Thinks it's a real nice place for her. I don't often do one-story builds, but it sure is nice not to have to go between different floors. Aw, she fixed the kitty! Now this lady's happy. I'm just glad that there's someone here taking care of the poor pets in this village, just because they probably haven't had that luxury very often. This, by the way, it was the inspiration house. I was trying to go off of this build right here, though I ended up joining these 2 things, but this is where my inspiration came from. There's a bird. Hello, bird. It's like, I'll just be going now. we gave them the creeps. So I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Apologize to anyone who was really enjoying it, but I think it's time this series come to an end, and who knows, sometime in the future I may start up a new series with The Sims, but it'll probably be a little bit. I still don't know what the next series is going to be, but I know it's not going to be The Sims. So I hope you guys enjoyed this series and this episode, and until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.